What's an illegal thing people don't know is illegal, and you didn't know that it's actually illegal? Write in the comments what you think about it. Enjoy the show. Story 1. In Australia, it's illegal to interfere with native wildlife. This covers the obvious, like touching or feeding, but also technically extends to moving a dead animal off the road, or picking up a feather or bone. Story 2. In many places, it's illegal to use a handheld phone while driving, even if you're stopped at a red light. People often don't realize that this includes checking messages, using GPS, or any other phone-related activity, unless it's hands-free. Story 3. Intentionally feeding wildlife, including squirrels and birds, is illegal in California. The California Fish and Game Code's Title 14, Section 251.1 prohibits feeding any game or non-game bird or mammal, including harassment, which is defined as an intentional act that disrupts an animal's normal behavior patterns. Story 4 UK. If you find a baby gray squirrel, Sciurus carolinensis, or an injured one, and nurse it to health, then releasing it back into the wild is illegal. It is now your pet, or you need to kill it. If you take an injured or baby gray squirrel to a vet and ask them to treat it, they are legally required to euthanize it. While gray squirrels are cute, they're officially classed as an invasive species, and as such, you can't introduce them back into the wild. Story 5. Online gambling in Washington state in the U.S. is a Class B felony. The law was passed almost unanimously across party lines. The bribes campaign contributions given to the legislators by live gambling interests had nothing to do with the law's passage. Class B felonies include second-degree rape and negligent homicide. In Washington state, playing poker stars is the same as killing or rape. Story 6. Cigarette ashing out a car window, moving or stationary is illegal in many places, like California, VC 23111, also even tossing out an orange peel. 23111, throwing substances on highways or adjoining areas. No person in any vehicle and no pedestrian shall throw or discharge from or upon any road or highway or adjoining area, public or private, any lighted or non-lighted cigarette, cigar, match, or any flaming or glowing substance. Story 7. In Austria, drawing the swastika simulating the Hitler greeting, even as a joke, or anything that could glorify NS is illegal. For example, the license plate HH is illegal, Wiederbetätigungsgesetz. While typically not enforced as strictly, it is publicly not tolerated. I'm always surprised how open people in America make jokes or talk about Nazi regime that could technically be illegal in Austria. Story 8. Not exactly illegal but frowned in India, tipping and constant hovering of waiters. 90% of eateries, restaurants in India pay their workers properly. They're given proper pay and are fed during their shift. If you look at a restaurant bill, the SGST, State Goods and Services Tax, and CGST, Central Goods and Services Tax, cover their tips in addition to their salaries. Adding extra is your choice, but still most people don't pay, and waiters don't hover around for service. They come when they're called. Most tourists, especially Americans, just tip because it's mandatory in their country, and the poor-looking guy who's collecting their plates makes them think he's not being paid enough and donate more. More often than not, they view any other currency less and not by PPP. This makes those people think that they can get more tips from tourists and in turn from locals too. A lot of restaurants have bad staff reviews because of this. Tourists tipping in India reminds me of that aristocrat, or someone throwing coins in an enclosure filled with African children. Story 9. Sleeping in the same bed with a person of the opposite sex to include a spouse is illegal in Utah. That's why twin beds were sold in pairs. Also, having your record player louder than 10 decibels in cities like Magna is illegal. I went to court for a noise disturbance and they dropped the charges after I showed it was a radio at 50 decibels, not a record player. The law literally states record player. The law does not say anything else or similar. This is also the same state where I was ticketed for dancing in public after 2 a.m., the movie Dirty Dancing made in Utah from this law. I was able to get that tossed because the dancing was started before 2 a.m., and the cops failed to provide a 5-minute warning stated by law, which made the whole courtroom laugh so hard. Story 10. Leaving your vehicle engine running while it is unoccupied. People were getting fines and summonses all over the place during the cold snap because they were turning their cars on before work and going back inside to wait for them to heat up. Story 11. In my country, we put shit we don't need out on the nature strip so others who might want it can take it. It's illegal to put stuff on the nature strip as it is considered depositing goods on council land and to take any of said stuff without speaking to the owner and asking if you can have it. Like you could have an old clothes dryer Works fine, you just don't want it. You put it on the nature strip to let others know they can have it if they want. I come up and take it. You then have me charged for theft for taking your property. Note, this never happens, as it is a social custom that if it's on the nature strip, you don't want it and others can have it. But technically, anyone who takes it without express permission is stealing. So you could have me charged if you wanted to be a dick about it. But to put something on the nature strip is illegal because of the aforementioned depositing goods. However, again, unless someone explicitly reports it, council doesn't care. Story 12. Driving while intoxicated means you must not be above 0. 4G/L, with the exception of new drivers and professional drivers who can't drink at all. If you drank 1 beer and the police says you're 0.5, you broke the law. Or, this is how it works in Italy, where at 18 you can legally drink alcohol and get a driving license. Of course, you can't drink and then drive. The sentence can be up to 10 points if you're completely stoned. Things in America, where you get a driving license at 16 and you can drink alcohol at 21, could be different. Story 13. One of my father's friend used to live in Zug Canton in Switzerland for tax reasons. When we went to visit him and his family there, they let us know that it's illegal to flush the toilet after 10 p.m. since they're living in a detached house, and the running water can wake up the neighbors. I don't know if that was illegal on a canton level or the town level. Story 14. In Germany, it is illegal to cause a nuclear explosion. 1. Whosoever undertakes to cause an explosion by the release of nuclear energy, and thereby endangers the life or limb of another person or property of significant value belonging to another, shall be liable to imprisonment of not less than 5 years. 307 German Criminal Code. Story 15. In Arizona, it is illegal to drive in the Gore Point, the triangle of a freeway-highway exit. Several years ago, a police officer got hit there while he was out helping someone else, and it's been a law ever since. You can tell the new residents because they drive right through it all the time. Story 16. Americans commenting stuff without mentioning it applies to the USA. I'm not talking about all Americans, just the ones living in the northern part below Canada and above Mexico. They are about 300 million of the 5,000 million people living on Earth. It's very confusing, to be honest. Imagine Icelanders did it with their weird horse rules. Then Americans and Icelanders would always be in conflict with one another. No, it's not true. You can bring a horse back to our country. No, you can't. Where are you getting this from? It will destroy the local horse population. And on and on. Story 17. It's illegal to wander off an official path in a forest in Germany. The only exceptions are to collect mushrooms and cross-country skiing. Also, in many counties, it is illegal to let your dog run free without being on leash between April 1st and July 15th. Story 18. It's illegal to eat traditional haggis in the U.S. The reason for this is that it contains sheep lung and no animal lungs are legal to consume due to some studies showing remnants of stomach acid in animal lungs. You can still eat it without lung, of course, but interesting nonetheless. Story 19. Carrying a baseball bat in your car without a reason can be seen as carrying a weapon in Australia. Unless your reason is you are going to baseball training or a game, it can get you arrested for carrying an illegal weapon. If you wish to carry around something, I have one of those old solid metal gear locks in my car, just in case any fucker tries to carjack or road rage me. This is for locking up my car and protecting it against theft, officer. And remember to keep the key on your car keys. Story 20. In almost every U.S. state, if there is any vehicle with hazards or other flashing lights on the shoulder of the highway, you need to move over to the other lane regardless of circumstances. It's a ticketable offense. Recently, I was pulled over with a flat tire, and the state trooper that stopped to help me got back in his car and pulled over a truck that didn't move over. Also, in some states, if you are at any point doing more than 10 miles under the speed limit on a highway, you need to turn on your hazard lights. In some situations, it even applies when you're at the back of slow-moving traffic. Story 21. Giving someone any amount of money is technically income, even as a gift, and the IRS wants you to report it, even if it's not enough for them to consider taxing you on it. Not doing so is technically tax fraud. Making modifications to your vehicle is technically illegal if they have the potential to change the emissions rating on your vehicle, even if these modifications wouldn't realistically change it enough to be outside the threshold of your efficiency. This means that performance air filters that are not the stock air filter are technically illegal. Drinking a drink, eating a food product, or using a product in a store before purchasing it, even if you have full intention of purchasing it, is considered theft, and they can potentially charge you with theft even if you still purchase the item because you consumed or used the item before paying for it. It's technically illegal to ride a bicycle against the direction of traffic, and you are in the bike lane or sidewalk. A bicycle is defined as a non-motorized vehicle. Riding against the direction of traffic is considered reckless, as it increases the possibility of an accident. Story 22. Parking in a handicapped spot with veteran disability (DV) plates that haven't been renewed for the current year. I found out the city will give you a friendly $256 parking fine to be cool and pay your registration. OVB, unintentional oversight on my end. I guess technically you don't have the right to park there since you're not allowed to drive. Makes sense and doesn't at the same time. Shower thoughts. If I was parked there legally in 2023, registration lapsed, I'd then get a ticket in 2024, right? But technically I can't drive to move it, and I can't stay there. What a pickle. And yes, the answer would be to pay online, but if you have outstanding tolls, you must pay at the DMV in person. Done. Story 23. Put one hand on a manatee, okay, 2 hands on a manatee, straight to jail, Florida. They have undercover cops, or whatever you want to call them, watching civilians in places like Silver Springs where they mate. Rightfully so, IMO. Lol, I know this because I asked a fish and wildlife dude working there if I could ride a manatee one-handed. For 8 seconds. Joking. He said, technically. I told him I'm paddling back home to get my manatee saddle, haha. Story 24. In America, it's illegal to harvest wild ginseng on many state lands and on all national park land. Where it is legal to harvest, there are rules that must be followed. The laws vary from state to state, some allowing only artificially propagated ginseng to be harvested, some require a license, some have a season for it, etc. I had never imagined harvesting such an innocuous thing would be wrapped in so much red tape. Story 25. Growing more than 5 weed plants in the Netherlands. We're not as liberal as people think, XD. Once the weed exists, it's fine. You can buy it at coffee shops, carry up to 5 grams, smoke it in public, no problem, but it shouldn't exist in the first place, because growing any quantity over personal use is forbidden. Story 26. It is not illegal for alien spacecraft to land at the intergalactic spaceport outside of Green River, Wyoming. It is literally just a flat spot on a hill that is unmaintained. But it does have a rough airfield shape. It is illegal for alien spacecraft to land in some places in France, IIRC. There was some rumor about other world visitors a couple hundred years ago, and they made a law that was still in existence back in the early 2000s. Story 27. I'd say most truck drivers don't know it's illegal to use a mobile phone while driving. I see so many of them doing it. The cunts. And yes, I realize they do know, but they are just irresponsible cunts. I literally see at least one every single time I'm driving somewhere on the motorway. Cunts. Story 28. I don't have a house, I have a fortress of solitude. We can be alone together if you ever leave your province, LOL. Seriously though, I've drank in pubs that are older than the whole of America and Canada, and it's just normal here. Next week I'm off out to my local medieval castle to dress up as a pirate and drink a shitload of rum. It's just a day out. It's so weird to me that Americans think the world is just a theme park. I know you're from Canada and that's ace. Canadians have always been worth meeting. I appear to be rambling. Story 29. In the U.S., firearm importers have to follow something called 922R compliance. There are certain rifles and shotguns that may not be imported because they are not suitable for sporting purposes, and it is illegal to assemble one of these banned rifles or shotguns from too many imported parts. There's a list of 20 parts that regulators use, and some are essentially parts of parts, with magazines containing 3. It's technically possible to make your rifle illegal simply by swapping out a US-made magazine with an imported one, dropping the number of domestic parts below the legal threshold. You can be hit with fines, confiscation of the non-compliant firearm, as well as 5 years in prison for violating the law. Story 30. In Oregon, U-turns are illegal at stoplights unless indicated by a U-turns permitted sign. This is opposite most other jurisdictions. Also, we can turn from a 2-way street onto a 1-way street, even going left on a red light. Put another way, if you need to go left onto a 1-way, but you're on a 2-way, you can legally do it. Turning right in this scenario is more common. Ours just goes both ways. Edit for clarity. Story 31. A lot of people online, but especially Reddit, are very naive and ignorant about US IP copyright law. There is a lot, but a common one. It doesn't matter if you don't make money off of something, you still can't use protected material. Your fan-made thing is still violating copyright. No, it's not fair use. And yes, you, in theory, could get in trouble for it. Profit is not a criteria. Think of it this way. If you make something using IP and give it away for free, why would anyone pay for the real thing? You are devaluing their IP either way. This includes fan art and fanfic. Now, most people don't give a shit. It's free advertising, and even Big Core have stopped making too much of a fuss about it. But just because they don't doesn't mean they won't. And they are well within their rights. Another thing is trademark. Companies have to defend it. They may not care if grandma is selling trademarked crafts, but they are legally obligated to defend it. So if you get a cease and desist from a corp about trademark, they're not being complete assholes about it. They're literally doing what they legally have to do. I know it's a touchy subject, but none of the above even applies to long-term copyright laws. And it's frustrating, because copyright in particular has some pretty exact 4-factor tests that are long established, but also it's basically up to a judge to decide. But in the end, Reddit's view of IP law is pretty much garbage. Story 32. Jimson weed possession or use of Jimson weed. A. Prohibition. Except for legitimate medical purposes, a person may not possess or use in the county the plant known as Datura stramonium, also known as Jimson weed. Jimson weed is abused for the hallucinogenic effects it produces. The primary psychoactive substances in Jimson weed, the alkaloids atropine and scopolamine, are legitimately used to treat various medical disorders. Occurs in pastures, barnyards, fields, roadsides, railroads, and waste or cultivated land. A native of tropical America, Jimson weed was introduced and has naturalized in much of the United States. While Jimson weed intoxication is prevalent in certain geographical pockets, documented cases within the United States are notably scarce. 3. This wild herb flourishes across the country, maturing between May and September. Occasionally, adolescents display curiosity regarding its hallucinogenic potential. I heard you see a woman with red hair, and your thirst can never be quenched. The trip is something like being in hell with no water. Painful. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.